Hello, everyone, and welcome to Diaspora Bell. Today on the set, we have the lovely Gina West joining us. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
So please introduce yourself.
In what way?
Tell us about what you do.
Well, I'm a singer, and most people know me as a singer.
Fantastic.
I also have a talk show, a television talk show called A Different View with Gina West. It started off in Accra, Ghana. And the whole point is really challenging the viewer to let go of stereotypes, let go of preconceptions, take a different view of whatever subject matter
Absolutely,
we're discussing.
yeah.
And it's really to say to people, look, let's change the narrative on Africa.
I love that.
So a different view. with
Fantastic.
Gina West.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So we're going to go right ahead and jump into these interview questions, and feel free to add your own twist to it.
Okay.
Because here on the show, we like to be fun, we like to be innovative and creative.
And spontaneous, because I have no
Absolutely.
idea what you're going to talk to me about.
And spontaneous.
Okay.
So without further ado, we'll jump right into it. So Diaspora Bell is about the platform that looks at the role that diaspora can play in nation building, both domestically as well as internationally. And the theme this year is Africa in America. So can you tell us a little bit about what Africa in America means to you?
Okay, so Africa in America, and I'm assuming that we're talking about all aspects of society.
Yes.
So we're talking about media, we're talking about
Yes,
the arts, we're
yes.
talking about
Entrepreneurship.
government, entrepreneurship,
Absolutely.
doctors, lawyers, education,
Yeah, yes.
Social impact.
Yes.
And I mean, I believe that, since time immemorial, there's been a particular view of Africans, not always
Very
positive.
true.
It's you think of Africa, you think of poverty, you think of Africa. Someone said to me earlier, you think of Africa, you think of viruses. Oh dear, I mean that's a new one.
Yeah.
You think of Africa, and Nigerians in particular, you think,
Yeah.
oh, great people,
Yeah,
go-getters,
yeah.
but very good at
Yeah.
criminal activity too. So there's a lot of conversation about Africa and Africans that is not necessarily positive.
Absolutely.
But we know that that's not the truth, that there are a lot of examples, great examples, in the world of film and television, in the world of doctors, bankers, even government. I mean, the reality is that Obama, we say he was the first African-American president, but the reality is that his blood was, his lineage is Kenyan. So, so that's what I think of when I think of Africa in America. I say, let's look at the positives. Let's see what we're achieving. Trevor Noah, he's a South African young man, and he is one of the best comedians we've seen
Wow.
in the world today.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Fantastic.
I could go on and on.
Absolutely. I'm sure you could. I could as well. What would you consider the most important goal of an African in the diaspora?
Do you know, I think that it's really important to remember where you've come from, who you are, but also why you're here. Never forget your lineage, your heritage, and be proud of that. Because I think
Absolutely.
sometimes, you can meet people, and we won't mention names, who almost want to pretend that they are,
American
they're
or-
American, and
Absolutely,
they
yeah.
almost want to, because they're almost embarrassed
Yeah.
about where they come
Right.
from, but there's so much to be proud of.
Absolutely.
Proud of.
Absolutely.
So I would say no matter what you do, what your calling is, so to speak, you need to do it to the best of your ability. Show that spirit of excellence that I believe exists and is on our continent.
Fantastic. The world seems to be getting smaller.
Yeah.
As an artist, how would you advise your younger self as a new diasporan that wants to participate outside of Africa?
Okay, so I mean, I'm not a new diasporan.
Okay.
I mean, because I grew up in England,
Okay.
so I've always lived outside of the continent
Right.
of Africa.
Okay.
But I always went back and forth. And so your question is that how would I advise my younger self
Yes.
about what in particular?
How would you advise yourself with the global competition going on, with more and more people entering the marketplace with that influence of, I don't know if you're familiar with the term cultural appropriation.
Yeah,
So with,
you know what I would say? I'd say that, back in the day, so as an artist, my field is music.
Okay.
And I think that back in the day, we all wanted, in a sense, to copy Americans, to sound American. I had a little problem with it because I sounded very English, very British,
Yeah.
and so I would enunciate my words
Yeah.
very properly. And
Right.
I'd often be told by the producer, "No, you need to slur it a little, and you need to make it, that kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
stuff, And I'd say to any young African person who's in that in this industry, I'd say, you know what? What is going to set you apart is your culture. Is that experience, being able to speak in a little bit of pidgin, being able to throw in Yoruba or whatever your language is, and just adding that, the beats, the rhythms, and just being a little different. Because then you come across as authentic. And there is nothing more powerful than an artist that you can see as being true,
Absolutely.
not a copycat.
Absolutely.
Copycat,
Yeah.
it just doesn't work.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
that's what I would say.
Yeah.
I'd say, I'd say to my younger self, Gina, don't try to copy
Yeah,
anybody.
absolutely.
Just be yourself. Find
Absolutely.
yourself and be yourself.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
For diasporians that are here, should we be looking back home for inspiration, and what is the most effective process?
I think that we should. I think we should stay connected and in tune with what is happening on the continent. Also so that we can go and actually also make a difference there,
Absolutely.
and sort of put
Absolutely.
back,
Yeah.
give back,
Yeah.
really. There's a lot happening on the continent. Really, there's
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, the world is so small. It's so small that, that's literally,
Yeah.
the crossover
Yeah.
is incredible. And I
Yeah.
think that the opportunities today are wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. And we need to take advantage of
Absolutely,
those.
yeah. And I believe that any country that is not seeing Africa as seeing the potential for investment, for economic growth, for future business they're not looking forward. Because
Absolutely.
The future right now is Africa. Absolutely.
Future is Africa.
Absolutely.
And in particular, African women.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
another
Especially in
conversation.
entrepreneurship.
It's phenomenal,
Yeah.
actually.
Absolutely. I agree. And finally, musicians and artists have had profound impact on polity, and policy. But in light of all of these issues with African nations today, how are artists like you becoming a force for greater good?
Okay, so let's just clarify first. What issues are we talking about? So what you said, all of these issues. Which
Yeah.
issues are we talking about?
So I would say issues with, for me personally, I've noticed that there seems to be a standard in the entertainment and in the music and even in the beauty industry of what beautiful is. So that
Okay.
kind of European standard. And you see a lot of, even more recently when I went home to Nigeria, you see a lot more, even African women are seeming to embrace a more European, like I said, standard of beauty, from the way their makeup is done, from lighting creams, from even the way that they talk and present themselves, like how you were saying. A lot of these indigenous people are, when they come here, they find that they kind of shy away, or they're less proud of their culture. They conform to everywhere else. So as someone in the entertainment and music industry, how are you combating that? How are you
Well, but do you know, I mean, I would choose to take a different view, so
okay.
to speak.
Sure.
I think, let's talk about makeup, for
Okay.
example. We're all women,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And, there is a particular way of putting on makeup. And the only difference between us as Africans and, say, our Caucasian counterparts is that the colors they use are different from the colors we would use. I don't think there's a particular way of putting makeup on that says that you're African or that you're European. I disagree with that.
Okay.
And there's also been a conversation about hair,
Yeah.
And since time immemorial, we've done all sorts of things to our hair by putting in extensions, and whether those extensions are braids or weaves or whatever, it's actually all amounts to the same thing. It's about what you find easy, what you think best suits you best,
Absolutely, yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
So for me, there's some women, I mean, sometimes I sport an afro,
Yeah.
sometimes I have my weave,
Yeah.
sometimes I have it curly,
Yeah.
sometimes I have it straight,
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
I've even had a bald head. Can
Yeah.
you believe it? But that's just how I felt I wanted to
Absolutely.
express
Yeah.
myself. And I think the key, it's not so much about any of this, is about who you are inside and what message are you imparting? What are you saying? Are you being true to yourself?
Absolutely. I would
And
agree.
my being true to myself is going to be different from somebody else's. It's bound to be different because our
Absolutely.
experiences
Are different.
are
yeah.
different. you know?
Yeah.
So I say that, you know, perhaps
Absolutely.
our focus should be less on that and more on just giving people the freedom
Yeah.
to be who they are.
Absolutely, yeah. I would
Yeah.
agree with that 100%, and also say that we need more of that. So in mentioning what I started off saying, I think celebrating that natural African beauty needs to be in
Yes.
whatever form it is, and not
Yes.
feeling like whether your makeup, you have makeup or your makeup less, not feeling like you have to overly contour yourself
No.
or wear a certain image that isn't the truly
Truly
yourself.
you,
Exactly.
truly you,
Absolutely.
you know,
Yeah.
and often as women, often that changes depending on our mood, depending
Yeah,
on what age we
absolutely,
are,
yeah.
depending
Yeah.
on the,
Yeah.
you know, and that's okay
Absolutely,
too.
yeah.
That's okay.
As long as it's your
As
authentic
long-
self.
There you go.
I love that.
There you go.
Well, thank you so much. We've had so much fun having you
Thank
here
you.
today on set.
Thank
You've
you.
been a joy and a pleasure to talk to. And
Very opinionated.
yes, I love it. A strong-minded woman. So we hope to see
All
you again.
African women, I'm telling you.
Oh, I mean,
Formidable. I heard somebody say, she's an African woman.
Yeah.
She's formidable.
she's formidable.
I like the word formidable.
Formidable. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope
Thank
to
you.
see you again.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.